You know, this gentleman needs no introduction to SCN, Dr. Joseph Mahan of Columbus, Georgia, a man that Columbus really appreciates, the city of Columbus, that he's foremost in wanting to restore that is historical, and that goes a long ways in our book. So I'm going to let him introduce this documentary. I know you're going to enjoy it. Dr. Mahan, thank you for having us
Arnold,
back
for being
again.
here. Thank you. I'm sitting this morning in the courtyard of an 1850 hotel called the Cook Hotel, which for many years after 1880 was the Rankin Hotel and was the finest hotel in this area, next door to the Springer Opera House, and many important opera people and others came here. This courtyard, of course, was where they brought in carriages and luggage and supplies for the hotel. It was built in 1850, and fortunately it has now been, or is being restored, some of the activities going on as I talk, to serve as a very fine office complex, the Rankin building in downtown Columbus. I think it's an appropriate place from which to introduce the documentaries that you are doing in a series, really. 3 of them, but all of them relate in one form or another to historic preservation in this area and to the Institute for the Study of American Cultures, which is more specifically involved in the learning and preservation of Indian culture and history. It's especially interesting that the walls around me were just as they are now in the year 1850, which you will see in the recreated town of Westville of that same year. This is what urban Columbus looked like that year, and out there you'll see what the area, the small country town in West Georgia looked like at the same time. So I hope you will enjoy the documentaries, and I'm sure you will.
My name is Hawthorne Chamberlain. I moved here to Westville, Georgia a couple of years ago to be a storekeeper in my cousin's store. Westville is becoming a prosperous town. I'm glad to be a part of it, and I'd like to give you a tour today. What we're looking at right now is the gate that we have built. It's a copy of the gate at the Capitol at Milledgeville. Our purpose of building this gate is to show that West Georgia, even though it is a new area, is still a place that has a lot of culture and remembers back to the big cities of our day. Now we're going to ride around Westville, and I'm going to show you some sights. Over on our left, we're coming up on the Masonic Female College. This is a successful school, so successful in fact the Masons are building another school for this building, and no longer are we going to have to use it for a schoolhouse. Over on our right, we're passing by Mr. John Grimes' house. He was one of our early settlers, and Mr. Grimes has a beautiful 15-year-old daughter. Got several people coming to court. This building we're coming up on our right is the home of Edward McDonald. He figured out to get into the cotton warehousing business early on, and he has made a good bit of money in the cotton business. The railroad came the year after he built his warehouse. We're coming up on the right on Dr. Paulin's office. Dr. Paulin studied in Augusta, and he's opened this business here and is doing quite well in treating the people of this town. Over on our left is our courthouse. We just built it, and if you can believe it, it cost $5,900 to build this building. Almost unbelievable. Over on our right is the Climax Presbyterian Church. This church has just been organized and is getting up a good congregation of people to worship the Lord. Next to the church is the home of one of our #1 residences, and his name is William Rawson. He is a cousin of mine and has a store here in town. He plays the flute. Over on the left is Senator Lovard Bryan's house. He's been a senator twice. Early on in the history of the county, about 1830, he brought Methodism to this county and is an upstanding citizen. That building in front of us is a cotton baling press. There are many of them around the county. That can bale 2 whole bales of cotton a day. And that gin is the building on the other side of it, and it is powered by mules. It's run by William Bagley, who is a cotton ginner. He's also one of the county commissioners. We're riding now through some woods into the older part of town where the settlers first came in. Westville was settled about 1830. These are on the left are some of the early houses that the people built when they first moved in, about 1827. And we can see over on the right a farmhouse. People are doing quite well there. That's the Patterson family. They built their house just a few years ago, and they're already having to put a roof on. They grow sugar cane and a number of garden crops, and one of the things people around here like to do is come when they grind the sugar cane and make syrup out of it. On the left is the remains of an old house that was here when most of the people came. In fact, it was originally built by Indians, and when the Indians were removed from this area, some white people came in and built a house onto their house. Those people were the Wells family. Through the woods we can see a blacksmith shop. That's the Cobb Brothers blacksmith shop. The Indians left this area about 1832, and they went over into Alabama, but they, being the pernicious people that they were, decided to come back into town in 1836, and there were several houses burned and people killed. We're looking now at the Lawson house. Mr. Lawson is a farmer and is a hard worker. He built his house about 1836. That's one of my favorite houses in town. We're coming around behind the Moy house. Mr. Moy, Matthew Allen Moy, moved into this house about 1842 and died, but his wife and children have made a success of the plantation. It's one of the prettiest houses we have here. I see that they are building onto the back now. Over on the right, we have the pottery shop. We're fortunate to have a pottery here in Westville. Not every place has a pottery. We can go there and buy our pots instead of having to buy them off the back of a wagon like most people do. Over on our right, coming up, is the Britton West house. Mr. and Mrs. West are poor farmers. They try hard, but they hadn't been able to get much going. We're going to turn down Forsyth Street. Forsyth Street's on the courthouse square. We are going to be on the left looking at the cabinet shop. There's a lot of business going on in the cabinet shop these days because people have money because cotton prices are so high. Over here is Johann Singer's boot shop. Mr. Singer has a new daughter in his family, and he's had to move his sons up into the upstairs of the boot shop. He's got a lot of boots to make, and also he's got a tannery going on. This is his house. This is where he lived. He started out with his shop right there in that room that we're looking in, but he grew so fast with his business and his family that he moved on out, moved his children on out. Now we're looking at the law office right here, the Moy Law Office, and over here on the right we're looking at Adams General Merchandise. They are a competitor to my cousin's shop, so I won't talk too much about them, but you know, they do have a post office in there. I wish we could get a post office in our business because that would draw people in our shop. People say that when they go there they feel like that they have gone to New York, but I don't believe that. We didn't get the front of this house when we were talking about it earlier.
Doing a little boxwood front yard.
Right.
That's got a little southern garden too there.
I understand they plan to do some a native plant garden, which is something new. Nobody's ever had a native plant garden around this area. Everybody wants to have gardens that look like Milledgeville and Savannah and Charleston. You want to go back? All right, let's stop here, Sammy. Let's stop and go see Stephen Hawks, who is the potter here in Westville.
Hi there. This is where one of the first things we do is we bring clay in, raw clay that's dug out of the ground somewhere. You know, you can find clay all over the place. You can find it up high on a mountain or down in the river. Around here we get it along the river or in banks, something like that. And you put it in here, and this has got some blades that turns it around. It's called a pug mill. Hook up a donkey or a mule, and it turns it around and around for several hours. It takes maybe 3 to 5 hours to really mix it up good, and you can get maybe 500 pounds of clay mixed up, wet clay, and that'll turn a lot of churns or jugs. And for 3 people working, I'm only one person working here, but say you'd have 3 people working in the shop, you could turn that out pretty fast. You know, in a week's time. I could probably turn it out in 2 weeks' time. If y'all want to come in here, I'll show you where I make the stuff. First, and this is what the clay looks like when it's finished being milled. It's nice, smooth consistency. If you can't find good clay, most of the potters wouldn't take in clay that had too much rocks and roots in it. But if you have to use it, you can strain it. We have another area out back where you can liquefy it and strain it, and it really is a lot of times better clay when it's been liquefied and mixed that way. But first you wedge the clay, and you can do that several ways. It's called wedging, kneading. Wedging, you take the wedge of the clay. When you cut it, you frame it down into the other piece of clay, and that will eventually work the air out and compress the clay and get it ready for throwing, turning. And when you're cutting it too, you can see if there's any lumps in it or rocks. And then I work it up by my hands too, just to get it in a good shape for turning and work the rest of the air out and the lumps. And we'll turn something right now. Now this is a treadle wheel. A bunch of different professions have treadles machines. This is a potter's wheel run by a treadle. I've heard that some of those northern potteries have what they call a kick wheel, but we use this kind of wheel. It's a treadle wheel. You can look down below and see how it works. Nice smooth motion. Center of the clay, and then you open it. A couple of my wheels have ball openers for opening real big pieces of clay. And I open this size or smaller with my hands. If I have to, I can open real big pieces with my hands, but ball opener helps a little bit. This is some good clay here. This from 2 local clays, a kaolin and a brick clay that I've put together. So I couldn't find one good clay that I could get enough of at one time, so I mixed 2 together, which is what a lot of potters do. gonna make a jar. Got some levers over here that I'll pick it up with. Wrong size. I need to just pick it up with my arms. There. And then I've got some other pieces over here. A bowl I made them. I need to glaze them. Got some cups and some bowls. I don't make a lot of that kind of stuff because people can't afford to buy it for tableware. So what I do is I make mostly storage things, but every now and then somebody will ask me to make them a bowl or mix them, something to mix in. And so I will. And you take it and you dip it in the glaze, which is made out of ashes and clay and crushed glass and ground up real fine or sieved real fine. And then you can just dip that whole bowl there. And that will all melt, form a kind of greenish glass, brown or green, depending on what the fire does to it. The cup's easier to do. You just take it and dip it. Get it nice. You have to clean the bottom on that though, or it'll stick. Then we go out here and I'll show you where I fire them. When that's when those are when I've cleaned the bottoms good on them, I take them out here, and I'll take something right now and show you where I put that. Take these pieces and come out here to the kiln. Got all this wood. I need a little bit more, but I go on next fire, and I did a fire about a month ago, and I'm gonna do another one soon, or less than a month actually. Then you come in here. I don't know if you can see in here or not. These right here are my saggers, what I put the pots in. The containers that hold the pots when you're firing them. You take a piece and sit it down inside like that. That one's a little bit too, not the right size. That's the good size for that piece. And I put some whiting, what they call whiting, under there that'll help it keep from sticking in there if anything runs down and gets too hot. You never can tell how hot it's going to get. You know about how hot, but sometimes there are hotter places and colder places, and sometimes the glaze will melt and run down. I'm not quite ready to put these saggers in yet. I hadn't finished stacking what I got in here, but I've been loading a bunch of stuff. I got a bunch of small things right now because that's what I've got some orders for. Some candle holders, a lot of candle holders, and some bowls and things. But all my bigger stuff is going to go up here. I keep all my small stuff in the back because the glaze it's a little cooler back there, and those glazes on those smaller pieces will melt better in the back than in the front. The front will get hotter on a large piece. You want the whole thing to melt even, and smaller pieces is not as important because it's not as much. But these bigger pieces, if I get a piece like this is under fire, then it's more space than if some of those under fire. And this will get up to about 2,400 degrees. This is called a groundhog kiln, or it's like a groundhog kiln. North Georgia potters use a lower arched and maybe longer thing, and they load it from the back. We load this one from the front, or I load it from the front. The fire is right where I'm standing. I've got a bench here so I can get up there, but the fire is right here. This is bricked up. You can see these are my door bricks here, and right here I got some bricks there. and we'll brick this all the way up and have a couple of holes here for air and for the wood. And then I start the fires down here, go for about 20 hours, and then it'll reach around 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit. Let it cool for a couple of days, close off the air so it doesn't cool too fast, and then you go in there 2 or 3 days later and you pull it out. Take a day, maybe 2 days to unload it. Shouldn't take too long if you got help, but it usually takes me a day. But I've let it, when it was too hot, I would let it go for 2 days. I'll unload some and then come back and do the rest, because you can get real hot fast unloading a kiln when there's still heat in it. And that's about it. And then you take the stuff to the hardware store or around in the wagon. I'll take a wagon and haul it around and to the country folks, farms and houses, and they'll buy a crocker, churner, mixing bowl from me. And sometimes I trade out. They'll give me, if they got some corn, or if it's the winter and they got more of something left over and I didn't grow enough of that, or then they'll give me that, salted piece of ham or something like that, and then we'll trade out. But I'll take him to the hardware store. He'll either trade me for provisions, or else he'll give me some money. But it's about between a nickel to 25 cents a gallon is what I get for my pieces, and that's just according to what kind of money people got at the time. Some people want to talk your way down, and if I need the money, I got to get it somewhere. So that's the way we do business around here.
Let's go and meet David Fink, who's one of the blacksmiths in Westville.
Hello, David. Good evening.
Making, David?
Right now I'm have to make another hook to suspend the pot over the fireplace with a spring. Very simple ass.
Tell us what you're doing while you're doing it.
Well, at this particular point, I'm trying to taper this point down. Every blacksmith has a tendency to do a little bit something extra to take away from the dullness of a piece. So I'm going to be putting a small scroll, a very small scroll on the end of it, just to add a little touch so the piece is not totally devoid of any style at all. I've got one side done, and I'll be doing the other side now. These were your temperature controls in the fireplace. By adding or subtracting hooks, you raise or lower your pot. I tell temperature only by color. Reds, oranges, yellows, and almost white. To get a graceful curvature, you have to taper this down before I make it round. Otherwise, the curve looks very clumsy. And now to put the other simple little scroll in. And form the opposite end of the hook. Cooling the tip down, because that's going to be a point that I hit on, and I've already formed that, so I don't want that to distort. And this would be the hook to hang it up from. These would generally be used in conjunction. Women had a bunch of these, and by adding or removing these, you raise or lower your pot.
David, what is the biggest object that, or what I mean to say, what is the thing that you most often have to make for the people of Westville?
Actually, what I do for the time frame is mostly repair work, about 60% repair work. The other would have been very simple agricultural hardware, a lot of trace chains, a lot of wagon parts, a lot of loggerheads, a lot of harness work, a lot of hoe and shovel repair, axe repair, but we also do occasional hinges, door handles, latches, candle holders, mostly small hardware. While it was made in large quantities in manufacturing centers, the cost of transportation put it out of the reach of most people. So the blacksmith had to make most of the things for people to make do. But most of it would have had to have been agricultural. Some animal shoes, not very many. Ground is soft, and unless you took your animal out on the road, you didn't shoe them. As I said, most of it would have been repair.
You have to do barter, David?
Actually, some was done, very little. All the other craftsmen can get their raw material from nature, i.e. the cabinet maker would saw trees, the cordwainer would get hides from animals. Blacksmith had to buy his raw materials. So he was basically a cash business, very, very little barter. Once in a while, he would take off somebody's bill for a side of beef or a butchered pig. He also might have done some bartering with a local farmer during the winter to make charcoal as a fuel for him. Other than that, it was primarily a cash business because he had to buy his stuff in cash.
Thank you, David, for visiting with us.
You're more than welcome.
Let's go over here and see if we can find Shirlene Ponder, who is here. Not there. Not there, but it sure is cool in this hallway, even though it's mighty hot outside. No, she's not here. Not here either. Well, she must be in the kitchen, down this dog trot into the breezeway. There she is. There's Shirlene Ponder. Hey, Shirlene.
Hey, how you all doing?
Doing fine.
All right, this is where I cook my sausage and biscuits at. I'm finna check on them right now, see if they're ready to come up. Yes, they about ready. And this is where I cook my sausages at. I'm finna check them. All right, they about ready. So, I'm finna take them up.
And those look mighty good.
Yeah, thank you.
What you make them out of?
Well, we use plain flour, and I use buttermilk, and we use lard. That's how I make them up.
And you mix all that together?
Mix all that together. I make them up in this flour in here, and first I sift my flour, then I put my lard in, and then I put my baking powder and my soda, and then I use a little buttermilk.
These folks from the city, they don't know what lard is. What is lard?
Lard is like come from fat from hog. That's how how you make your lard.
So biscuits actually got some hog in it.
That's right, sure is. Sure is.
What else you got to cooking? Anything?
Well, the sausage, sausage. I got these. You want to take these out? Take these out.
Let's make one for these folks.
Oh, you want one? Okay. You can put the fiber. Alrighty. Excuse me. You eat a lot of sausage? Quite a few. We do. You quite a few. That's right. You want to try one?
Sounds good, Shirlene. Thank you. Well, I've sure enjoyed having you all come and visit us. We'd like to have you come back anytime. If I can jump from 1850 to this year, we are a museum that's open to the public. We're open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Sunday 1 to 5 p.m. We're glad to have you come and stay as long during the day as you would like. We are near Lumpkin, Georgia. Lumpkin, Georgia is south of Columbus and northwest of Albany, Georgia. This county was formed in 1827 when the Lower Creek Indians sold this area of West Georgia to the state of Georgia. And in 1830, Stewart County was formed and Lumpkin was formed also. The town grew fairly quickly at first, but then there were numerous Indian attacks coming out of Alabama until it climaxed in 1836 with a series of Indian attacks that resulted in several hundred Indians being killed and about 100 white and black people being killed. But by the end of the summer, the Indian attacks were over and the Indians were removed to Arkansas. And from that point on, Lumpkin began to grow very quickly. In fact, by the year 1850, it was the 17th largest town in the state of Georgia. Also, Stewart County was a fast-growing county based in the cotton agriculture.
Okay, we want to start over.
Okay. You're the director. Go ahead.
Okay, the north side of the square contains some of the older buildings in Lumpkin. The two-story building there, beige color, was originally built as a bank, and it's the oldest building on the north side of the square. The other buildings, that building was probably built in the late 1870s, early 1880s. The other buildings over here are turn of the century era. They were built at different times, scattered up until about 1910 or so. Anything to add on that?
In the early 1890s, there was a fire on the courthouse square, one of several. And at that time, most of the buildings were built in wood and they were rebuilt in brick. 1890s that was a depression in the South, and at that time there was a lot of social upheaval. But by about 1900, the economy had stabilized and Lumpkin began to grow again.
Okay, the construction on the buildings are brick. They have a wooden floor structure and a flat built-up type roof.
One of the marks in Georgia of a community that was built before the Civil War is that it will have a courthouse with the commercial buildings in a square around it. A community built after the Civil War will have a railroad running through the middle of town and the commercial buildings along the railroad tracks. As you can see, Lumpkin is one of those courthouse square type formats, and that is obvious that it is a pre-Civil War building. We're pre-Civil War community.
The courthouse building in Lumpkin originally was a wood frame structure. It was replaced in early 1880s with a brick structure. That brick structure burned in 1926, and it was basically been the walls, I believe, are basically the same, but the inside was redone after that fire. Okay, to our this is the south side of the courthouse square. This side of the square was destroyed by fire in the early 1890s and was replaced soon thereafter. All of these buildings really were built within 3 years of each other, so there are a lot of similarities in the architecture and a lot of continuity from building to building because of the close time frame in which they were built. Okay. At this time, there's development on the way on the south side of the square to convert some of the buildings to establishments that would cater to tourist trade. There's a drugstore museum located on the square now that's operated by the Historical Commission, and plans are for several more buildings to go in soon. Several more businesses to go in the buildings. There you go.
This courthouse square has enough integrity that in the architecture that we envision a unified appearance that will be very attractive for the tourist trade that comes to see Westville, that comes to go hunting, that comes to see the Beddingfield Inn and the Drugstore Museum, that comes to Providence Canyon and all the various natural, historic, and cultural resources that we have in this county.
Okay, this is the Singer Company, known as Georgia's oldest hardware store. The business was started in 1838 by J.G. Singer, who was a German immigrant. He was a shoemaker. His original building is located at Westville. This building was built by his son in 1894 and has housed a hardware business here since that time. Located next to the hardware store is Sweet Mama's Confectionery, old-fashioned fudge and candies. Okay.
Welcome to the Hatchet Drugstore Museum. The museum is owned by the Stewart County Historical Commission, and it was given to the Historical Commission by the Columbus Museum. The drugstore collection is a complete drugstore collection which came from Fort Gaines, Georgia. Dr. Hatchet was the physician and had the drugstore. Inside you will see the contents are intact. This way. And range, they have everything that were on the shelves just exactly as they were when the store was taken over. All the contents are original. These are not empty boxes. These are original items. As you can see, some of the things that you used to see a long time ago or can still purchase. These were his saddlebags. As you can see, he went on horse, carried his saddlebags and his doctor's bags, even had his forceps that came out of his bags. These were his medicines that he used, that he carried with him. This is an old barrel of rouge. They used to make their rouge in little compacts. Over here you can see they have a display of the medicines that he mixed. Still has the little, like I say, everything is intact, even the bottles that they would put them in. And it scales. And you can see the shelves are lined with medicines. Also the spices that they used to use and some herbs as they put in there. And then this one, this is a good selection of what ails you. They sold everything from eyeglasses to ink, everything you would need. In the showcases here, they have some old postcards of various items that are really interesting. There's one in here that announces the birth of a child that says, "Baby boy is born, baby's fine, mother's fine." That's all it says.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much for showing us through it.
Thank you. We're glad you came. You come back.
The most prominent building on the square is the Beddingfield Inn, the Beddingfield Hotel. It's been called numerous things over the years, called a Cuba house for many years, probably because Cuba was such a important thing in the history of the 1850s. The people in the United States tried by force and by treaty to get Cuba to be a state of the United States. And that never happened, of course, but people in this area were very interested in Cuba, so that's why the Cuba House is called that. We call it the Beddingfield Inn today because Dr. Brian Beddingfield was one of the early settlers of the county, and he opened this building as a stagecoach hotel about 1838.
Beddingfield Inn was built around 1836. It was built for a stagecoach stop, a place for the doctor's office, a place for his family to live, and he used it for most everything. And this was the public room, and the men sat in here, and the ladies stayed in their own parlor. They could go off of the front porch into their parlor without having to come in here and disturb the men. And now some of this has had to be, Dr. Bedingfield just lived 10 years after he built it, and he had to, they sold it in a few years, and they had to replace some of these things in here. And this, I don't know whether that matters or not, but that's the way it looked like when the Stewart County Historical Commission bought it and started restoring it.
We'll come back and get that. Just
okay. Now this was the public dining room. The Baptist Tabernacle in Columbus gave the piano, the Rosewood Square grand piano, and a family in Atlanta, the rug, the table. They've used Empire period furniture. The table and chairs is a reproduction, but it's what they would love to have when they can afford it. And they used the blue willow pattern of Staffordshire china because they dug the backyard all up to see what they could find, and they found little broken pieces of this pattern. And so they knew that's what they must have used. Now this is the the ladies' parlor. These paintings came from an old plantation home down on the Chattahoochee River called the Shepherd Plantation. Down there was where they had the last battles with the Indians. This room has shamrock trim over the doors and windows, which the other rooms don't. This is the stairway going up by the rooms on the far end were the family bedrooms. It's a hall all the way up and down the room, 7 bedrooms. You going on around this way? This is the family parlor in here. That's the little melodeon there on your left. And this mirror here, the family that gave the big rug in the dining room also gave that mirror. They had 2 closets upstairs and two downstairs. They had to pay tax on the closets just like another room to the house. The ones upstairs in the same bedroom. That's better. This is his study, private dining room. Some of them say they think it's his office. On this table was the little scales. You know, they had to beat the medicine up with the pestle in the mortar and then weigh it out on the little scales. And that other piece there is a bleeder. They bled people back then. Had 10 blades in it. This is the side they cooked on. They made the jellies and things of this sort in the copper kettle. They hung meat, turkey or something like that on this piece and wound it up and it gradually turned. And this, of course, swings over the fire. They could cook on that. That was the jelly cupboard where they kept their jellies and things they made. This, the flour and meal bin. And that's the old sausage stuffer over yonder on the table. And the churn, and they say that's a flax wheel. I don't know what the difference is on a flax wheel and a spinning wheel.
I really want to thank you all for sharing with us today your lovely city and Westville and Lumpkin. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. We enjoyed it tremendously.
Great.
Would you have a closing statement or thought to the...
We'd just like to invite any of the viewers, if they're in the area, if you're in South Georgia, would like to come to South Georgia and visit us here in Lumpkin, in Westville, Stewart County. We would welcome you here, and all you have to do is give us a call. If you'd like further information, you can call Westville at area code 912-838-6310. Matt?
We have a lot of exciting things going on right now with the various natural, historic, and cultural resources that we have, and we have a lot of plans for the future. So even if you were to come this week, a year from now, things would be different and better. So we invite you to come on. Thanks very much for coming to visit us.
Thank you.